Angeline Era seems like a very cool game. I've been waiting for this game for a very long time, and as far as I can tell, it seems like a bit of a horror mixture game where it reminds me a lot of, like, say, the aesthetic of like old Resident Evil, but the gameplay style seems to be a bit more top down. It's one of those like indie darlings that has come out in the recent times during the month of May. I mean, the entire month of May has been indie darlings left, right, and center, which is pretty amazing actually. I didn't expect there to be that many indie darlings this month. Usually, what you would expect from the industry is sort of a almost like a drought, a long-term drought, and then like sporadic releases every single month or so that, you know, tend to like raise the bar a lot, and then a bunch of like very average releases, which is kind of like normal, right? Because again, not everything can be perfect, because then otherwise it would be impossible to have how do I say this? It would be impossible for there to be like a difference, like a scale, right? It would be impossible for there to be good things because everything would be amazing. However, the month of May has been kind of interesting to look at because there's been a lot of very, very good games coming out, like constantly, consistently. There's been a crap ton, and I'm always surprised to sort of see these like giant waterfalls because again, based on the Monomi Park talk at GDC, a lot of these games are fighting for, you know, the same consumer base's time and attention. And I remember seeing a post actually, well, a couple of tweets, which I don't really know if it counts very, very, very much, all things considered, but I think it's important to think about. They asked, "Hey, how come no one's playing my game?" You know, or like there are so many games that are underground, and I wish more people knew about them. But the thing is that the truth is that people probably do want to play these games, but it's like people have a limited amount of money and time, and so you need to figure out what you want to spend your time and money on. And it's probably going to end up being that your average consumer is going to wait for the first wave of people to play the game. Then they're only going to get the games that they either really want, that appeals to them, or they're only going to buy like the one banger of the year and then just never play anything else, because that's how much most people can, on average, afford. It's very interesting to sort of see people sort of like bemoan the lack of the success of the game, when I feel like it's also kind of like the reality that I think they should be aware of. Because the truth is, again, the games industry is more of a value-add industry. You don't need games to survive. It's fun to play. It's a bit like movies, right? You don't really need them. So it's important to keep in mind that like just because people don't play them doesn't mean that your game necessarily isn't good. It's just that honestly, most of the time, I mean, I don't know people who have as much free time as I do to play games, okay? And I barely have free time as is between work and like other stuff, so it's gonna be hard. But today I'm also going to, as per stream tradition, going to show you a new song. Usually I play English songs on this channel, but then my wife, I asked her for some recommendations of Vietnamese songs. Songs in my tradition, songs in my nature. And I wanted to share some with you today. Some choices of hers, one of which I remember. The rest I don't, and so I need to ask you for the list again. And so before we begin everything, I'm going to leave you with a new song. And I think you'll like this one. I'm pretty sure I never played this one at any point on the channel. At least I don't think so. And if I did, I'm sorry, but oh well. Listen, I have short-term memory loss. Not really, but yeah, that's what it feels like, okay? I'm going to leave you with quite a good song here. The song by an artist named Min. Not M-I-N-H, even though that's that's like a very common spelling. This one is just M-I-N, and I don't know why hers is spelled M-I-N. I've never seen the M-I-N spelling. But it also could just be like her artist name, and it could be like an acronym. I don't really know. There's a song called Cafe by Min, which is apparently very, very difficult to find because, again, it's the Vietnamese spelling, so this is the weird part. I'm gonna explain this. The French did a number on our language. It's a very interesting way of doing loanwords. Usually when a language does loanwords, what they do is they do the entire word as is. So like communique in like English is just a French word that we have, right? Gesundheit is just a German, I don't really know if it's a word or like an exclamation or something. Blitzkrieg in English is exactly the German spelling of the word. What's another French word that's been loaned? But basically, the loaning of words is a very fascinating historical thing. And usually when you take a loan word, you keep the same spelling of that word. So you don't really change anything about it. In my language, we change everything. So we change it, and we change it into a form that's very familiar to us, using our own system of grammar, or sorry, not to grammar, our own system of spelling and our own system of diacritics in order to convey the exact same word. So in English, I mean, even the word cafe is just a French word, but we keep the exact same French spelling. It's one of the few words in English that you use and has like a little accent on it. And most people, when they see it, they go, ooh, fancy, versus like a coffee shop. In Vietnamese, well, it's an interesting spelling. I'm going to show you it by linking you the song. I'll be back as soon as the song is done playing. I should have pinned it. Oops. And I hope that you enjoy the song, because the song is actually very, very catchy in its own interesting ways. But yes, the spelling really is with a C, an A, and a P, and an H, and an E. Debated. you miss the sword segment. You miss the sword segment. There's nothing that I can do about that. Is the water game tomorrow? The water game? Yes, the water game is tomorrow. Sorry, I had to switch everything. So every single scheduled day that you saw gets pushed to the next day, because yesterday I was busy at like a work for like a last minute call. So the water game is tomorrow. Endless Ocean Luminous. Enjoy the song. Wait, I really don't want. Here we go. Not the music video. Right? I mean, that fish game definitely looks very, very cool. Just like how that music was sick. You like that? You like that cutaway? That music is that song is very interesting. There's a sort of evolution to the way that singing in tonal languages has like gone. Okay, you see this in every tonal language, whether it's Vietnamese or whatever language of Chinese, or even like other Southeast Asian languages that are very tonal. Which I think there's quite a few actually. You notice, actually, that the tones of the words, if you don't know Vietnamese, are very off from how you would actually say them, right? The problem with a tonal language is that it's very, very hard to sort of sing, because you need to know musically how to incorporate the tones of the words into the actual words, into the actual, like, melody itself, which is a very, very difficult thing to do without losing the meaning of the word. The simplest example that I can think of is cup and wisdom. Okay, in Vietnamese, this is a very simple word. Okay, the only difference is a single accent. Okay, if you godly, that means that you have wisdom. But if you drink water out of a ly, that means that you're drinking out of a cup. It's spelled the exact same way. The only difference is the two accents. In the tonal language, the tone changes the entire meaning of it. In the music that they sing, when you hear them sing certain words and certain phrases, you pay attention to it, you actually see them go up and down, sort of like straying away from the bass melody of the song itself, almost in like a microtonal way, to where it has like a bit of a articulation slash accent to the pitch itself. That's them trying to preserve the meaning of the word without butchering it too much, but also trying to stay with the song itself. It's a very, very interesting way of doing things. And it's been interesting to sort of see the evolution of tonal music, trying to incorporate that and make it work. Another famous example is Vietnamese Gunner. I don't know why he's called Vietnamese Gunner, but like, holy moly, is it funny as heck. It's a very famous clip. It's a very, very famous clip. It got really popular on like TikTok because he competed in like a competition, a Vietnamese rap competition. And my God, does this guy go hard? He goes very, very hard. Here, this is. But like he's not actually named Vietnamese Gunner. It's just in the West that was like the best analog that people could have like thought of. Which is funny to me because it's like, oh yeah, that's like hilarious, right? He's called a slightly different name, and his song is not just a random song. Like it is actually a full song. But Vietnamese rap in particular has sort of like evolved. Tonal language rap is very interesting. Whether you hear it from like any other tonal language, you'll find two different styles that these groups primarily sort of like go towards. You have the more flat style, which I think you can probably hear from the group that like made the song WeChat. In this case, this leans into the tonality as part of the rap lyrics and the song itself.
Em sẽ màu một cái màu sắc miền Tây của em lên đây cho mọi người cùng chiêm ngưỡng.
And it's really sick. To West Side.
Căn nhà tranh mây lá làm sao có giá được trăm cây vàng nè. Có mấy lời bay lá, có anh thiếp về ngay cho chàng nè. Về thưa ba thưa má mà vui quá xa nếu anh cưới nàng nè. Có mấy lời bay lá, có ơi cô em lấy đó à, sao em nỡ làm ngơ. Anh mang theo tiếng đàn cò vẫn xuất khẩu thành thơ. Ơi cô em lấy đó à, sao em nỡ làm ngơ. Anh mang theo tiếng đàn cò. Một bầu trời trắng xóa như tay em đang ngơi. Kia là vầng trăng khuyết soi lên nét mặt người. Nào là dòng sông thấm như thân em lua la mà phải chăng em đang tự tin này là một đời người vốn khó, nhưng sao thân em luôn cơ hàng và tự hòa mình như cánh chim nhưng em yêu. Xin cảm ơn.
It is insane. Let's just hear him say, you know, thanks to the crowd. It's a very, very interesting way of doing the rap because there's a tonal beat to it where he kind of like sings it, but even when he raps it, you can hear him sort of like inflect upwards and like downwards to sort of match exactly what he needs to in order to make the words not lose their meaning. It's a very, very interesting approach to tonal music. I never understood how to make tonal music work. Like, every music is just tonal by default, but in particular, tonal languages translating that into like a song of some kind feels very, very difficult to do because of how many different things you need to be aware of, I would say. It's very, very much unlike any other type of music, where if your language has no tones, you can implement any tone to it, right? Like, it just works. But the wrong tone on the wrong word changes the meaning entirely, and then you're left kind of with like a nonsense. Like, actual nonsense. Like, you might be trying to say, oh, this guy's so wise, and you say, oh, this guy is a cup. And it's like, what? Like, it throws the entire meaning of it off. Especially for rap, I think it's the hardest one. Because in rap, language is like the most important part of like the entire experience. Like, the words that you write, and it's effectively, I mean, it's just spoken word poetry at that point. Being able to do that well, I find, is a very interesting skill set. And it reminds me actually of a set of videos by something that I've been watching as well. So this is a lot of like different things I've been doing while I was gone. There's a series of videos by Faria Fariji. I believe that's his name. If I butchered his name, I'm so sorry. You can find his name on YouTube. That's exactly the name of his channel because he's a narcissist. I'm just joking. He's not a narcissist, but listen, it takes a lot for somebody to name a channel after their own name and just go with it. He makes videos on even how, like, you know, Eastern music and these like different sort of like ways of hearing it, and like how the tones really matter and how important it is to get like the correct sounds and work within, you know, this different system of music theory. How important it is to work within it, otherwise what you get is nonsense. That doesn't sound like anything that you've ever heard. And he really shows it to great effect by, you know, going through a bunch of what is your stereotypical, like, you know, quote unquote Persian Eastern music, right? Say in like Prince of Persia. And he shows, you know, his like mother, who's apparently like a very well trained like artist in his own sort of like culture, and she goes, yeah, this sounds nothing like our music. This just sounds like somebody who like heard about us, heard like a brief description, thought like a desert because it's the Middle East, and then just tried to make a song. It's it feels like the same way as like, you know, tonal music in like Asian languages, where it's its own music theory system, and it's not really taught because it's like you have to be over there to like teach it. And over in the West, what you have is the Western music theory, which is the octave cut into 12 parts. So it's a whole interesting theory bit, and I highly recommend his videos. If only to feel worse about yourself, and or maybe to inspire you to want to try to get better at it. Because again, I wish I was good at making tonal music. I really, really wish I was good at understanding and being able to translate that into something that sounds and fits and actually like works well for what it's trying to like do. Now, about Endless Ocean Luminous tomorrow. When we do play that game tomorrow, there's a very good chance that we might not have all day to spend on it, just because I don't know how long that game will take. But I can tell you, while it looks sick, there's some interesting things about it that you have to be aware of, okay? I would wait to buy it until you see my playthrough, because I played a little bit with my wife, and we realized that like it's a very cool game in its own way, but it's a bit like playing Pokemon Snap in that you what you see is what you get, right? So it's a very interesting game. I'll talk more about it tomorrow, but let's just say that tomorrow is going to be a very, very chill day where nothing really happens. I'm not even kidding you. Tomorrow is going to be the most boring day of the entire week, and there's nothing I can do about it. That's just the way that it goes. But enough talking. You talked a lot, and it's good to catch up with everyone, and also it's good just to have this, just in case. I'm still surprised at how many of you watch the VODs on like Twitch. I don't know why you do, but I also feel bad for all of you because I always cut out the pre-stream stuff from the actual VODs on the channel. So, this is also an update to the VOD channel. On the VOD channel, we'll be doing, I'll be cutting the pre-stream stuff down into like pieces of those VODs as well, so you can watch those as well. I used to do it before, but it used to be just like the raw pre-stream VOD, which was kind of annoying because there were bits of it that were like interesting to watch, and then there were bits of it where it was like you didn't want to watch it. So from now on, you'll be seeing more edited cuts of the pre-stream segments on the VOD channel, so that you can actually watch it and like not feel like you're wasting your time watching it. Because again, the gameplay stuff is fun to watch as like a long play, but listening to someone talk for a long period of like time, I can't do podcasts, so I'm not going to subject you to it. But maybe some of you want that, in which case, yeah, just continue watching on Twitch, you freak. Anyways, enough talking. Let's start with the fun games. Today is going to be very interesting. Again, we're starting with some Angeline Era today. I'm still very undecided on the whole microtonal thing. The thing is that I understand exactly what it is, and yet there's so little compositions of it that like make me go like, oh yeah, like it sounds really good. However, I know that it works because if you listen to a lot of Middle Eastern music, for instance, a lot of say Persian music or Iranian music or so on and so forth, like just or like like all kinds of songs from that region. They use like a microtonal system, a 36 or like a 32 like note system compared to the Western 12 note system, and it sounds amazing. And you hear it actually in parts of the song where I really like how it dips into a note that like doesn't really fit well into like the 12 octave system of like a Western music theory, and it sounds like it adds some flavor to like the personality. And then there's parts of it where it's like it's all combined into like one thing, and the entire thing is like a microtonal like set, almost a whole section of it. And I sort of wonder like, okay, well, I feel like maybe I would get it if I understood more of the theory, but at the same time, at least in my ears, it doesn't sound like I'm understanding it. And I just to this day, I don't really know if that's a consequence of me not necessarily growing up with that system, or if it's like just the way that the sounds work. I'm not really sure, but it sounds interesting. That's the most that I can say about this. It sounds very interesting. It's a very fascinating way of, I guess, thinking about music. And again, it's tied to the talk that I had earlier today before we started about how tonal languages, trying to fit that into like a melodic song, and trying to fit like say like a tonal language like say Vietnamese into like a song with its own melody and the complexities of that. That feels like in a way trying to convert a song or like you're it feels like in a way applying the same principles behind microtonals in like music but to the words that you say as part of like your like song lyrics and how you say them. It feels almost like the same system, and yet I feel so close and I feel so far from understanding it. And maybe that's just, you know, that's just how art is. Maybe I'm just not made for art. Maybe I'm just not made for music. And maybe, just maybe, I'm gonna stick with my, you know, pop songs and my Beatles and Lady Gaga and Fugazi and stuff like that. Yeah, but I wish I could understand more of it because it does sound interesting at like parts. And I wonder if it's necessarily a case of like, is it the composition? Is it the whole thing? Is it the fact that it's like a freestyle? So it's like, you know, they're just experimenting. I'm not really sure. Anyways, hope you enjoyed that music. Last time a chat member mentioned that instrument as well as that type of music, and I was like, huh, you know what? Let me take a look into it. And I went down like a huge rabbit hole. Again, Jer Rose, their whole channel is about exploring this. There's also a couple of other artists that I found that we'll be playing next time. Ones that go more experimental and ones that do music only in microtones. There's also a channel called Faria for Fariji, I believe his channel was named that. He does breakdowns of like what is, you know, Middle Eastern music and like what is like actual true Iranian music versus like whatever you hear on like YouTube and like Prince of Persia and stuff again. And it goes into like the whole idea of like what is the Eastern music theory compared to the Western music theory, and like how do they make use of these 32 notes and these sounds that we don't hear necessarily in our system of like music very, very much, unless it's for a very dramatic movie effect, which is usually what you hear it the most. But yeah, hopefully you enjoyed the song. The Running Men will have to disappear though, just like all of us, because we're going to be moving on to our next game today. We don't really have much time. I've been on for 4 hours only, but at the same time, it's like we started late today because sorry again, small amount of work. We're going to be playing some Crow Country. Now this one's a bit more terrifying, so I need to give a warning here. I am a screamer. I want everyone to know that I am a screamer. Okay, you're going to hear me scream, and you're going to have to deal with that. And I just want you to be prepared though. As far as I know, it's not that loud, but let's just do a scream test, okay? I'm gonna count down to 3, and I'm gonna scream like somebody just like, you know, jump scared me, IRL, right? Like this. I'm gonna scream.
Let's watch.
I'm gonna scream like this guy showed up. Okay, ready? As soon as the first jump scare happens, I'm gonna scream in like time with it, okay? And we're gonna do like a volume test.
These two office workers are
Let's see let's see if the limiter is set up
but what they
properly.
can't possibly plan for is a surprise visit from Spaghetti. Let's watch.
Okay, that was a good sound test. I think the mic works. The limiter kicked in, and it sounds good. All right, let's move on to the next game, Crow Country. Give me a moment to set things up.